Welcome to the GSMC Car Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey to the automotive world. We talk about the latest news, from new makes and models to new technology to all of the must-have options available. Whether you're a fan of the old classics, love the latest models and technology, or have never met a vehicle you didn't want to work on, the GSMC Car Podcast has something for every car enthusiast.
Welcome to the GSMC Car Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, David Lucy Mabel. Okay, today, folks, we are actually going to be discussing the Lexus LC. Now, I know that many of you out there may not know exactly what the Lexus LC is, so in this podcast, you will learn about the Lexus LC, which is a grand touring car made by the Lexus Motor Company, which is made by Toyota, that came out in late 2017 for the 2018 model year and is still being produced. You're going to learn about the specs, the competitors, whether or not I believe it's going to sell, and whether or not, frankly, if the car makes any sense. Because anybody who is privy to the car community would know that grand touring cars, cars in general actually, aren't selling very well. It's more of an SUV and crossover market, especially in North America, than it is cars nowadays. So we are going to be discussing that. So please stay tuned, fasten your seatbelt, and let's get going, because we are going to be discussing the Lexus LC and grand touring cars in general, really. So, what exactly is the Lexus LC? I've just briefly said, it's a grand touring car or a GT car made by Lexus. What exactly is a GT car? What is a grand tourer? It is typically a higher performance personal luxury car. So think of it this way. The personal luxury car is said to have started out with the Ford Thunderbird. It's typically a two-door car made for one person to enjoy personally, as far as their luxury features go. Luxury cars of the time tended to be very large, tended to seat a lot of people, not really meant for just one person. Well, this one is meant for just one person. Now, take that idea and add higher performance to it. So it's like a personal luxury car with high performance that you can cruise down the highway at a higher speed and that you can have a bit of fun with. That's basically what a grand tourer car is. Think of Aston Martin when you think grand touring cars. That's basically what Aston Martin provides. That's basically what Aston Martin does. The Grand Tourer, not the Grand Tourer, but the Lexus LC has been produced from 2017 for the 2018 model year to the present day. It's built on the same platform as the Lexus LS luxury sedan. It comes in two configurations. The LC 500, which has a naturally aspirated 471 horsepower engine, or the LC 500H, which is a hybrid drivetrain with a 295 horsepower engine, which I believe is a V6, paired with an electric motor that makes about 50 horsepower. That brings the total to a grand 354 horsepower in all for the hybrid version. Truly, the Lexus LC is a grand tourer by definition. The Lexus LC is large. Grand touring cars have always been large. I can say with great confidence, I don't think there is such a thing as a small grand touring car. These are large coupes. Think of, large American coupes of old. I mean, the Lexus LC is is probably the modern day spiritual successor to things like the Cadillac Eldorado. It's exclusive. It's not built very, I guess, there's not a ton of them built. There's not a ton of them that are sold. It's higher performance. It's better quality. It shares the underpinnings with the flagship sedan, just like the Cadillac Eldorado did. I mean, this is basically what it is. Just to drive that point home a little bit. The Grand Tourer class is really embodied by the Lexus LC. And just to say that the RC, which is Lexus's other coupe, is more performance-oriented, especially the F version. The LC is not necessarily concerned with making the most power. It's not necessarily concerned with being the fastest either, or the most nimble. What it's concerned with being is the most comfortable, is the most expensive, the most feature-laden, the most creature comforts, really. That's what the Lexus LC is determined to do. Think of it as the Lexus LS of the coupe world, which is, it's like a coupe version of the Lexus LS. It's built on the same platform, offers very much many of the same things. It's a coupe version of the Lexus LS. The Lexus LS, for example, doesn't have an F Sport version, just like the Lexus ES might have one, or the Lexus GS might have one, or the Lexus IS, because those are smaller versions. Those are smaller sedans, things that are meant to be more sporty, less luxurious, if I could put it that way. It's like very much the same difference between an E-Class and an S-Class. I mean, an S-Class, yeah, they might have an AMG version, but the real performer is the E-AMG or the C-Class AMG. It's not really the S-Class AMG, because by that time, the car has gotten so large, it's gotten so heavy, that you're not going to want to, seriously consider that this car is a performer. It's basically a cruising car that has performance updates. That is basically what the LC is from Lexus, which is exactly what I believe they're going for. The Grand Tourer is a personal luxury car meant to cruise around. It has performance upgrades. It has more power than your regular personal luxury car, if I could put it that way. So let me just read to you some of the specs. The Lexus LC is 187.4 inches long. That equals roughly 15.6 feet long. The width, 75.6 inches wide, 6.3 feet wide. And it weighs, get this, 4,258 pounds to 4,413 pounds. It's very large and heavy for a coupe. Just to put that into perspective, my Buick Park Avenue, traditional American luxury sedan, weighs 3,800 pounds. This is a coupe. This is a modern day coupe that is being produced in 2020, folks. That is, oh my gosh, 600 to 800 pounds heavier than my traditional American luxury sedan, Buick Park Avenue. That is insane. I was taken aback by that, actually. Not taken aback in a bad way, however. Taken aback in a good way. Because if Lexus is truly going to embody what a grand touring car is, that's exactly what they need to do. They need to go big, or they need to go home. You don't really get grand touring cars anymore. I mean, the only one I can think of right now that as, I guess, even somewhat common, I mean, and common is really a loose term there, is probably the Mercedes-Benz SL class. That's the only other grand touring car I can think of that is somewhat common, especially in this price range. The only other ones I can think of that aren't in this price range but that exist are Bentley Continental GT, Rolls-Royce Wraith. Those are grand touring cars. I mean, I can't think of anything else, though. Maserati doesn't really make any grand touring cars, per se. I mean, I guess the Maserati Ghibli is technically a grand touring car, but that's focused way more on performance than it is on luxury features and being as comfortable as possible. I guess some other brands might make grand touring cars, but like I said, those are focused more on sport. They're not focused so much on comfort. Lexus has been able to really, it's really been able to embody what a luxury coupe ought to be. I mean, this is a segment of cars that is dying, frankly. And you'll hear that more later on in the podcast about why I don't think it's going to sell well. And I echo a lot of Doug DeMuro's thoughts on that, because when I watched his video a few months ago about what he thought of the Lexus LC, the brand new Lexus LC, I agreed with him almost 100%. I mean, it's a great car, but it's a dying breed. But man, if anybody can execute this dying breed so perfectly, of course it would be Lexus. Lexus, I can tell you, is, as far as all fields considered, is probably the most competent luxury brand out there right now. Not the most expensive, not the most desirable per se, as far as luxury and status and other things though, but as far as making good decisions, they are the most competent. However, I'm not sure if the Lexus LC is the best move for them to make at this point. But even whether it's the best move for them to make or not, they have done an absolutely beautiful job at executing it. The only other car company I can think of right now that is really capturing the essence of cars of old, as far as the luxury cars go, are probably the South Korean brands, specifically Genesis. I mean, I was mourning the death of the traditional American luxury sedan months ago now in my podcast on the last of the traditional American luxury sedans, their birth, their life, and their death, if I could put it that way, and their legacy. But I mentioned in that podcast that South Korean cars, such as Genesis especially, are really, really capturing the essence of what American luxury used to be. They're not being so terribly focused on performance. They're focusing more on luxury. Take the Genesis G90, for example. That's not a performance car. Not to say that it can't perform, but performance is not its primary goal. And I feel like what has happened is that a lot of car companies, they're blurring the lines. I mean, there's a lot of things these days that seem to be blurring the lines. I mean, streaming and television a long time ago used to be separate things. Now a lot of people don't even have cable anymore. They just stream. It's the same thing with the car world. I mean, a luxury car and a performance car a long time ago used to be separate things. Now they're beginning to merge. But I feel like Lexus with the LC has rediscovered what a grand touring car ought to be. My question is have they rediscovered it too late? Are they going to be able to revive this segment of the car market? The Cadillac Eldorado-esque type cars, the Grand Tourers, the ones that are tons of money, the ones that may not be the most practical, but are the most pretty. I mean, have they come too late to the game? Have they tried to reinstate it? Because even their competitor, their main competitor, Mercedes-Benz SL class, is rumored to be, going to get the axe soon. I mean, they're going to axe it soon. They're going to kill it soon. I mean, I don't know how true that is. I've only heard it through the grapevine of a couple of car YouTubers. But, I'm hearing that the Mercedes-Benz SL class is not really selling so much anymore, and they might just end up killing it off. So I'm asking, did Lexus come too late to the game? Is it possible to to be profitable in this market segment? Is it possible to save this market segment? Or is this Lexus's parting gift? Is this their last hurrah to the Grand Touring cars of old, and this is the last one they're going to make too? Perhaps the Lexus LC was only meant to be a limited edition car to celebrate what the Grand Touring car did and what it means. So they came out with it knowing full and well that they were going to have to kill it eventually. They're making it so it can be some sort of exclusive car that perhaps one day can be worth a lot of money. Who knows? Who knows? At this point, one can't really tell. One can't really tell because the product is still very new. It just got on the market about 3 years ago, and it's only been around for 2 model years. So we'll find out. So please stay tuned after the break. I am going to be discussing the Lexus LC's chief rival, which is the Mercedes-Benz SL, and all of its variants, SL500, SL65 AMG, however they say it, that's what's coming up next. So please stay tuned, and of course, if you stay till the very end, you're going to hear my personal thoughts, which I've actually got a short story about the first time I ever saw a Lexus LC a few years ago, and yeah, please stay tuned after the break. I can't wait for you to hear it.
Are you a business owner? Someone interested in the latest news that might affect your business? Then check out the GSMC Business News Podcast, a show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. The GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
All right, welcome back, wonderful car people. In this segment, you're going to hear me speak about the Lexus LC's chief rival, which is the Mercedes-Benz SL. In the last segment, you heard me introduce the Lexus LC, what it is, what the specs are, what it's trying to do, what class of vehicles it belongs to. Well, now you're going to hear about another vehicle that's competing against it, and this is the Mercedes-Benz SL class. So let's get started. The main competitor is the Mercedes-Benz SL class, as if though I haven't already said it enough, as if though I haven't already been obvious enough. Even so, the LC and the SL both belong to a group of largely forgotten vehicles. This is a class of largely forgotten vehicles. This is a largely forgotten class in general. Let me put it into perspective. The SL, just like I said in the last segment, is rumored to be soon discontinued by Mercedes-Benz. And the current SL is old. It's been around since 2011. It has sold poorly, with only 2,126 being sold in the United States in 2018. The writing's on the wall, folks. The Grand Touring car is reaching the end of its time. If Mercedes-Benz, which I am not going to pretend is probably one of the best-selling car brands on the face of the earth. There ain't a place on this planet that you can go that you're not going to find a Mercedes-Benz. There are sold from every country, from Mali to Zimbabwe, from Norway to Australia, from Macau to Argentina. You're going to find Mercedes-Benz every single place on earth. They are truly a global brand. That being said, if they can have a car like the SL500, which is an absolutely wonderful car, and only sell just over 2,100 models for the entire 2018 year. And let me tell you, 2017 wasn't much better. Neither was 2016. Neither was 2015. They are all under 3,000 units being sold. You know the writing is on the wall. You know that car segment is in trouble. If Mercedes-Benz can't sell it, nobody can sell it. I mean, Mercedes-Benz is probably one of the most common car brands on earth when it comes to luxury cars. If they can't sell a Grand Tourer, nobody can sell a Grand Tourer. Let's be honest. I think Lexus, frankly, should have probably looked at how well the SL was selling, or the lack of it selling, really, before they gone and developed an entire Grand Touring car to compete against it. Not only is Lexus late to the game, I mean, the Lexus LC just came out in 2017 for the 2018 model year. The current model, Mercedes-Benz SL class, came out in 2010 for the 2011 model year and was facelifted in 2016. So you got like a generation and a half, if I could put it that way. And then it's towards the last 3 years, that's when Lexus finally woke up and be like, hey, we should make a Grand Touring car so we can combat the Mercedes-Benz SL. Because not to say that Lexus didn't have a Grand Touring car before. It was the Lexus SC, but the Lexus SC did not hold a candle to the Mercedes-Benz SL. The Lexus SC was a nice car, but it was not Mercedes-Benz level nice. It was like Acura level nice. It was a Cadillac level nice. It was not Mercedes-Benz level nice. I don't consider it a competitor to the Mercedes-Benz SL. So by the time they finally came around to offering something that was to rival the SL, they waited until the SL was almost dead. What sense does that make? Like I said, Lexus is probably the most competent luxury car on earth, but I'm not sure exactly what their thinking was behind this. Is it a final homage to a class of great cars? Or is this something that they thought they were genuinely going to make money from? Who knows? I hope it's the former, not the latter, because if it was the latter, they think that they're going to make more money than Mercedes-Benz on something. I mean, they're kind of dumb. But anyway, moving on. The Mercedes-Benz SL, here are some of the specifications. 362 to 449 horsepower, depending on what engine size you have. The length is 182 inches long, which is roughly 15.2 feet long. The width is 74 inches wide, which is roughly 6.2 feet wide. The weight is 3,826 to 3,959 pounds. Slightly smaller than the Lexus LC. The biggest disparity here is probably in the weight. The Lexus LC has what Jay Leno would call road-hugging weight. That's a heavy car. Not to say for a coupe the SL isn't a heavy car. It is a heavy car, but it's not nearly as heavy in the grand scheme of things as the Lexus LC. The lightest LC weighs, oh goodness, a rough estimate there, probably 400 pounds heavier than the lightest SL. The heaviest LC weighs about 500 pounds heavier than the heaviest SL. So there's a good weight disparity there. So the SL is slightly smaller than the LC, but that's not that huge of a concern when it comes to this class, because people in this class of cars are not buying it for their size. They're buying it for its comfort. They're buying it for what it does for them personally, not necessarily its size. Nobody's going to be hauling their families around in a Grand Touring car. The price of the SL versus the LC. The SL starts out at $91,000. The LC starts out at $92,950. They are largely very similar in their specs. It comes down to a matter of preference, actually. Do you prefer a German luxury car, or do you prefer a Japanese luxury car? The LC has more modern styling, I will say that, will probably be more reliable in the long run. But like I said, people are not buying these cars for their reliability. People are buying these cars because they are personal luxury cars that have a bit of kick to them. They are enduring cars. That's what they are. I've not included other expensive convertible coupes like the Audi R8, the Porsche 911, because they are more performance-based. They aren't large front-engine, rear-wheel drive coupes like these. I've left out the Ferraris that happen to be Grand Touring cars because they are way out of the price range. The Ferraris, the cheapest Ferraris are starting out at like $230,000. They're like, the price and a half of these things. Like, I'm not going to include that. But what I am going to say, however, is that I'm very intrigued in how Lexus is going to pull this off. To give my honest opinion, I believe because the Mercedes-Benz SL has been around much longer than the LC, I predict that simply because people know about it better, it has better brand recognition. I believe that people are going to buy the Mercedes-Benz SL versus the Lexus LC purely based off of name recognition. People, not to say people don't know what a Lexus is, but people don't know the Lexus LC. It's one of those cars that people just don't hear about. It's really one of those cars that people don't hear about them. I didn't know what the Lexus LC was until I saw one a couple of years ago, and I had to look it up because I'd never seen something like that. I was like, what's that? That's gorgeous. I thought it was the modern-day version of the SC, which I guess I was technically not wrong, but I'd never heard of an LC before. So you get a car like that versus the Mercedes-Benz SL that's already struggling. And this is Mercedes-Benz with some of the best-selling luxury cars on the face of the earth that has name recognition, that has a long pedigree of the SL. They are struggling. It's not the LC that's the new kid on the block that wouldn't struggle. I mean, it's sort of interesting. Even though the LC, in many respects, I believe is the better car, simply due to name recognition, I can understand as far as competing in the market goes, Mercedes-Benz is probably going to have them beat on this. Now, I want to speculate for a little bit. I got about 5 minutes left in this segment. I want to speculate for a little bit concerning what I had said earlier. Perhaps, maybe this is unrealistic and super romantic and wishful thinking of me, but perhaps the reason why Lexus came out with the LC was to create sort of a limited edition gem of a car. It's the flagship. They know it's not going to be their cash cow, but this is basically to showcase the newest Lexus technology in hopes that it will trickle down to the more boring Lexus models and have people purchase their cars. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, because car manufacturers tend to do that. I mean, those cars are like halo cars. They come out with them just so they can, show off their newest and latest technology. And then people get drawn into the brand. They're like, whoa, I like that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to want to buy a Lexus now because look at what Lexus is making. Maybe that's the reason why they have the LC, so they can showcase their latest and greatest technology, doing all the greatest things that they've been doing, and then in hopes that they will draw more people in to purchase Lexus cars, so people are going to know that the technology in the LC is going to trickle down to your LS. It's going to trickle down to your ES, your GS, your IS, all those other more boring, more common Lexuses, and heck, even into the SUVs too, the RX, the GX, the LX, blah, 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 all knowing that the more common ones are going to be having features that are similar to the LC. So maybe it's their way of expressing their newest technology. They come out with a halo car because they could very well know that it's not going to bring them the type of money that they are going to be looking for to sustain their company. Lexus, it's not like Lexus is in trouble and needed a cash cow, so they're coming out with the LC. It's not like, it's not like Chrysler, for example, years ago was in trouble, so they came out with the K car, so it could be a car that's cheap, easy to mass produce, so they can get a bunch of people to buy it, so they can save their company from going under. Lexus is not doing that. I don't think that Lexus ever thought they were going to make real money off the LC. I think, above all else, I think the Lexus LC is meant to be a car that focuses on showcasing the newest, the latest, the greatest things from the Lexus Motor Company, and it just so happens to be competing against the Mercedes-Benz SL. Because the Mercedes-Benz SL is not that for Mercedes-Benz, ironically. Mercedes-Benz SL is not Mercedes-Benz's halo car. I don't know exactly what Mercedes-Benz's halo car would be. Probably the S-Class, maybe the AMG GT. Their flagship touring car that's going to be catching the attention, that's going to be bringing people in. It's not the what's it called? The SL. That's what I was trying to remember. It's not the SL as far as Mercedes-Benz's halo car, Mercedes-Benz's flagship, two-door, sporty car that's going to get people excited about the brand. Frankly, I believe it's probably the AMG GT. The AMG GT, maybe the SLS, but I don't think they produce the SLS anymore. So I'm thinking it's the AMG GT. That's their two-door touring car, high performance, halo car that's bringing people into the brand. Lexus doesn't have something like that. They probably had it with the LFA, but I don't believe the Lexus LFA is being produced anymore. There's the Lexus RC, the Lexus RCF, but that's more likened to, oh gosh, I don't know what Mercedes-Benz is more likened to, but it's not likened to the AMG GT. It's not the same price range. It's not the same performance range. AMG GT is like Ferrari territory. So I think that Lexus is not as expensive as Mercedes-Benz typically. That's not always the case, especially nowadays. So I think that Lexus is really putting in their resources into making the LC their flagship sort of vehicle to get people excited by the brand. And then Mercedes-Benz is phasing out the SL. And as one is rising, the other one is falling. They happen to meet in the middle, and they happen to be competitors. I don't think that Mercedes-Benz is too terribly concerned with the LC. I don't think Lexus is too terribly concerned with the SL. I think is that Lexus is investing in this car, trying to make it rise through the ranks, and then Mercedes-Benz is divesting in this car and trying to slowly phase it out. And then as one is falling, the other one is rising. They happen to meet in the middle and be competitors for a brief sort of time. But I don't think that was ever truly their goal, to try to be a Lexus LC killer, or for the Lexus, on the other hand, to be a Mercedes-Benz SL killer. They just happen to be sort of in the middle, in the sort of kind of same bracket, and sort of kind of trying to, outsell them, not really, blah, blah, blah. So that's basically what I think about the competition. And really, that's really the only car that competes against it, at least the only one worth mentioning, because it's the most similar. So please stay tuned for the next segment, in which I'm going to elaborate on my point on why I don't believe the Lexus LC is going to sell. Not just because Grand Touring cars are dying, but for a whole variety of other reasons too. So please stay tuned after the break, and I hope you enjoy it.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Alrighty then, welcome back, wonderful car people. You have reached segment 3 in this podcast journey of ours. In segment 1, we introduced the Lexus LC. What is it? What's its purpose? What is it trying to do? What are some of the specs? Blah, blah, blah. All of those other great and fancy things. Last segment, we discussed the competition, in which I said that the only competition worth mentioning really is the Mercedes-Benz SL class, which I revealed towards the end of the podcast that, hey, you know what? It's probably not even the greatest competitor. It's probably the only reason why it's considered a competitor is just it happens to be in the same class of vehicles. One's going up, one's going down. They met in the middle, and they happen to be competitors as one is leaving the building and one's entering the building. They are caught in the middle at the same time, and they happen to be competing against each other. But that was never truly the intention, I suspect. Here's why. Their main market segment is rapidly disappearing / merging with the likes of the luxury sports cars. Grand Tourers don't really exist anymore. Think of it. When was the last time someone saw a Grand Touring car that was dedicated to Grand Touring cars? And I'm not talking about a GT badge slapped on the side of your Mustang. No. I'm talking about a legit Grand Touring car from luxury car companies. Cadillac doesn't make a coupe anymore. The only Cadillac coupe that really exists is the ATS coupe, if I'm not mistaken. And they don't even make the ATS anymore now. It's the CT4 now. So the ATS coupe is dead. I don't know if there's a CT4 coupe. I know there's not a CTS coupe anymore because the CTS is now the CT5. And I don't think they're going to be making a CT6 coupe. Lincoln doesn't have coupes. Chrysler's not even worth mentioning as far as the luxury car game goes. Mercedes-Benz has a coupe. I believe they had an S-Class coupe. I don't know if it still exists. And they have the SL, which is a convertible coupe, just like the LC. BMW, I believe, has the 8 Series. What else? Rolls-Royce has the Wraith. That's a Grand Touring car. Bentley has the Continental. That's a Grand Touring car. Volvo doesn't have any coupes worth mentioning in that category. Let's see. Who else? Jaguar doesn't have any large coupes to mention in that category. They've got the F-Type, but that's more of a sports car. That's not a Grand Touring car. What else? Exactly. It doesn't exist anymore. The Grand Touring market, the Grand Touring car segment, doesn't really exist anymore. It's been merged with the sports car segment. So now, because people don't want their sport without luxury, and people don't want their luxury without sport, the two have merged. Long time ago, before everything started merging like it is now, there were clear sports cars and there were clear luxury cars. Back in 50s and 40s day, Cadillac did not produce any cars that were even seen as slightly sporty. They were strictly luxury cars. And back in those times too, Ferrari did not make any cars that were considered even slightly luxurious. They were strictly sports cars. As the times have gone on, however, you find that luxury, people who want luxury want performance. People who want performance want luxury. Thus, luxury cars and sports cars have begun to merge. And then it was during that merge that the GT car was introduced. It was like before it fully evolved into the luxury sports car that it is today, the GT car was like the first step in that evolution. It was a personal luxury car that offered a bit more oomph than your regular personal luxury car. That's what a GT car was. That's what the GT car has always been. But now personal luxury cars are dead. GT cars are soon to follow. Because the GT car was never a sports car. A GT car was a personal luxury car that had a bit more oomph than your regular personal luxury car. It was never meant to be a sports car. They are all built on the bones of large, heavy luxury cars. They were not built on the bones of small, lightweight sports cars, and they slapped a couple of leather seats in there and called it a day. So that being said, it makes a lot of sense why this segment would start to die. First of all, it's a car. We all know, especially how in the North American market, how people just don't particularly care for cars anymore. They are more focused on crossovers and SUVs. It's a car. It's hard. It's hard to sell a car in this segment. And the Lexus SC that came before the LC was evidence of that. It struggled to sell. And they killed it. Only to bring it back as the Lexus LC, which is a more luxurious, more upscale version of the SC that came before it. People want cars that can do a bit of everything nowadays. They want the performance. They want the cargo room. They want the reliability. They want the practicality. They want the efficiency. They want all of that. Save for being reliable, the LC is none of these things. It performs, but it's not primarily meant for that. If the LC were really a performance car, it would not be built on the same platform as the LS. The LS is a large luxury sedan. Yes, it might have sporty capabilities, but at the end of the day, it's a large flagship luxury sedan land yacht. It is not a performance car. Lexus's performance car is the RC, the RCF. That's Lexus's performance car. The LC is not it. So even though it can perform, it's not meant for performance. So that being said, I hope you begin to understand the picture that I'm trying to paint here. Grand touring cars don't really exist anymore. Therefore, the Lexus LC is going to have a trouble selling. It's going to have trouble selling, and it's going to have trouble lasting too. Because at the end of the day, Toyota is going to get to a point where they're going to get tired of spending money to make these cars when they know they're not returning their profits. I'm not sure if these cars were intentionally meant to be low volume cars that didn't sell very well. I think they intended to be able to sell a reasonable amount of these, and then after they begin to realize that the market segment is dead, then they might pull out. It's either one thing or another. It's either that they made this on purpose to be purposefully low production just so they can showcase themselves, or they made it to showcase themselves thinking that it was going to sell a lot, and when it doesn't sell a lot, they're going to pull it out. It's one or the other. I know I kind of sound like I'm flip-flopping here. I haven't made up my mind, but really, I don't think Lexus has made up its mind either. So if I can't make up my mind what I believe the Lexus LC stands for, what it's going to be here, I don't blame me, because Lexus can't make up their mind either. The Americans used to have a version of the Grand Touring car. And I'm going to tell you, it was called the personal luxury car. I've said this over and over and over again. However, they've all been discontinued. The Cadillac Eldorado doesn't exist anymore. Cadillac Eldorado went out of production in 2002, I believe. Buick Riviera went out of production late 90s, early 2000s as well. Oldsmobile Toronado went out of production in like the early 90s. Ford Thunderbird went out of production in the mid to late 90s, came back in the early 2000s, then went out of production again. The Lincoln Mark series ended in the early 2000s, and etc. There are so many cars of that segment that once were that are no longer. These cars sold poorly. As the market shifted, they wanted cars that did everything. Instead of one car that did one thing perfectly, they wanted one car that did everything well. I echo very much of what Doug DeMuro said. Nobody will buy them. They'll be worth some money one day as a classic car. That, I am referring to the Lexus LC. The Lexus LC has come to the party but the party is already ended. In fact, the party is so ended that the hosts and the original attendees to the party are all pretty much dead, and the one who is holding out and who's about to leave is the is the Mercedes-Benz SL class. And it's kind of sad. It's like they didn't get the memo. They didn't get the memo. Or when they did get the memo, they came underdressed, and then they decided to go back home and then get dressed properly and then come to the party, only for them to find out that the party's already ended, everybody's already gone home, and Mercedes-Benz is the last holdout, but Mercedes-Benz is going to go back home too. At risk of taking the analogy too far, it's like the SC was their original entrance to the party. And then they spent a few hours there at the party, and then we're like, you know what? Man, I feel like I'm going to go home and change my outfit. They went home, they killed the SC, took off that outfit, put on the LC as an outfit, and then came back to the party. But by this time, Cadillac had already dipped out. Oldsmobile had already dipped out. Oldsmobile is old, so Oldsmobile went to bed early. So they dipped out in the 90s as far as personal luxury Grand Tourist type cars go. Ford dipped out, went to bed, came back briefly, went back to bed again. Buick dipped out, made its decision, didn't decide to come back. And the ones that are left are in the exclusive after party that's just going to keep on going. You got Rolls-Royce with their Wraith. You got Bentley with their Continental GT. You got Aston Martin and all of those cars. Those guys are hanging out in the back room, and their party is going to be going on for quite some more time, but you're not invited to the after party because you're not expensive enough. You're not as rich as they are. That's basically what's happened to the Lexus LC. If the Lexus LC were a person. Lex has gone home, changed their clothes, came back to the party thinking the party was still going on. The only people that are left are Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz is getting tired, is about to go home, and all the other, personal luxury / grand touring cars are in the back room having an after party. He's not invited to the after party because he's not rich enough to go join the likes of the Bentley, the Rolls-Royce, the Aston Martins, the British luxury tourers, if I can put it that way. That's basically what's happened to the Lexus LC. So please stay tuned, and you will hear my personal thoughts in this segment as well as a personal anecdote about the first time I saw a Lexus LC. So please stay tuned for the last segment. Thank you very much, and enjoy the break.
Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings-on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand.
All right, welcome back, car lovers. Here are my thoughts on the Lexus LC. I really like the Lexus LC. Yeah, I know. You was kind of harsh on it when I was giving that analogy in the last segment, why I don't believe it's going to sell well or not. But I've never been one to like popular cars that everybody else likes. I mean, even in the cars that I drive, I tend to drive cars that are older and that are becoming a bit more rare because of their age. I drove 2 Cadillac DeVilles. Granted, Cadillac DeVilles are not rare by any means, but amongst people my age, amongst the general populace of daily driven cars, 90s Cadillac DeVilles aren't really so much anymore. Buick Park Avenue Ultras, same thing, not so much anymore in the grand scheme of daily driven cars. I like to drive cars that are unique. I like to drive cars that are not extremely common, so when someone sees that car, they 95% know that it's me, and there might be a 5% chance that it's someone else. That's how I feel about the Lexus LC. I like it because it's unique. It's not extremely common. I like it because if I were to get one, somebody's going to see that and they're going to know, oh, that's David's car. Because there's not tons of them out there. I really like the Lexus LC because it's old-fashioned. And before I get a bunch of angry comments or emails saying, no, it's not old-fashioned, blah, 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 you're wrong. Here's what I mean by the fact that it's old-fashioned. It's embodying a type of car that really doesn't exist anymore, save for the fancy British ones that exist in this category. It's embodying the Grand Touring car. It's embodying the personal luxury car. It's embodying cars of old that once filled this market segment. I keep on going back to the Cadillac Eldorado. When the Cadillac Eldorado came out in 1953, that was the bee's knees. That's what the cat's pajamas was. I mean, that's what the coolest thing you could ever imagine coming from Cadillac was the Cadillac Eldorado. Oh my gosh, it's lower, it's longer, it's more gorgeous than the Cadillac Series 62 convertible. This is not your regular grandfather's Cadillac. This is a Cadillac that's going to be known the world over. This is super famous. That's what it's embodying. It's embodying things of that sort. Of course, it will never get the fame or the longevity that the Cadillac Eldorado had, but it's embodying that same sort of essence, that same sort of presence that the Cadillac Eldorado was known for having. But it's a Lexus LC. The Lexus LC built on the same platform as the Lexus LS. What else is built on the same platform as the Lexus LS? The Lexus LS, which is a great luxury car known the world over as being an S-Class competitor. And frankly, that probably outsells the S-Class. Or if not outsells the S-Class, probably outlives the S-Class. So you're seeing that, and you're seeing that, wow, Lexus didn't really give a flying flop about what they did, how much they made off of the LC. They brought it in as an homage to a great segment of the car world that was dying, and they brought it in to show that they can reinvent an old idea, make it new again, and then use that to showcase their brand. I think that's amazing. That's what I mean by it's old-fashioned. It's evoking an old-fashioned sort of idea. A personal luxury car, a grand touring car, a car that's meant for just yourself, for if you're a businessman and you're traveling cross country, you can get your luggage, throw it in the back of your Lexus LC, drive to California for the weekend to go complete a business deal and then come back. That's a grand touring car. That's what, Jensen Healey's were back in the day. That's what, the Mercedes-Benz SL was at some point, even though the Mercedes-Benz SL is dying, if not already dead. I don't even know if it's still on Mercedes-Benz's website. They might be selling old stock that they already made, but I don't even think they're even actively still producing them now that I even think of it. That's what those cars used to be. Taking an old-fashioned idea and moving on with it. Talking about styling. Oh my gosh. The Lexus LC is drop-dead gorgeous. It comes in a coupe version. It comes in a convertible version. Frankly, I like the coupe better than I like the convertible. I'm not a huge fan of convertible cars. But oh my gosh, it is beautiful. The Lexus LS is beautiful. I don't care what people say about Lexus and their spindle grille up front. I like the fact that Lexus is taking such a risk with design, because that's exactly what car manufacturers made back in the 1950s. They took crazy designs and applied them to cars. You had the fins on the 59 Cadillacs. You had the Delta Wings on the 59 Buicks. You had the trapezoidal grills on some of the Chrysler products. You had the scallop fenders of the 58 to 60 Continental. I mean, you had it all when it came to crazy styling. So the fact that Lexus is doing crazy styling again, that's polarizing. I love it. I think it's supposed to be polarizing. I don't think a car manufacturer is taking enough risks with their styling if some people don't absolutely hate it. That's an unpopular car opinion. I think the fact that some people find it super gorgeous and the other people find it ugly is great. That's what they ought to be going for, because then they're not taking enough risks if people don't like it. Enough of the boring, bubbly car designs that we've had since the 1980s to the mid-2000s. Start spicing it up a bit. Start doing something, start making something that's going to make people turn their head for better or for worse. They might turn their head because they think it's so dang ugly, or they might turn their head because it's the most beautiful car they've ever seen. Well, I can tell you with great confidence, the Lexus LS is definitely the best looking sedan on the market today. And the Lexus LC is probably the best looking coupe on the market today. That's my opinion. I remember when I saw a Lexus LC for the first time. I was with my friend Shannon. We had just gone to the memorial service for one of our professors' sophomore year. He passed away. He was a great Christian archaeologist, known the world over for his studies on Galilee. His name was Dr. Strange. We are in his memorial service at Bayshore Baptist Church down in Tampa. I believe it's what it was, Bayshore Baptist. It could have been like Bay Ridge or whatever, but Bayshore Baptist down in downtown Tampa. And as we are walking out, we're going back to Shannon's car. I go to the side of the street, I believe, because this car, it was blue, catches my eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go see what that is. And then I saw it. I was like, that's a Lexus coupe. I thought it was odd at first. I was like, people don't make coupes anymore so much. And then I got a glimpse of the badge on the back, and I was like, it's LC 500. What is that? I look it up, and I was instantly in love. I was like, oh my gosh, the thing is so beautiful. I was like, oh my gosh, it is literally so beautiful. I mean, there was not a bad angle to the car. And the way the sun hit that blue, I mean, it just... wow, it seemed to just sparkle in your eye. I still can't forget it. This is a Lexus we're talking about. This is a Japanese car. And it's that strikingly beautiful. I was like, it's made an impression on me. Here I am, almost 3 years later. That was in April of 2018 I saw that car. Here we are in October of 2020, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday. It made that much of an impact on me, how freaking gorgeous this car was. That's the Lexus LC, folks. That's the Lexus LC. This ain't your average car. And it kind of makes me sad that people, frankly, have lost their taste in automobiles. It makes me sad that I know deep down inside the Lexus LC is not going to sell well. I know deep down inside that the Lexus LC is not going to be really a successful car as far as sales go. It's not going to be one that people are going to be flocking to buy like everybody's flocking to buy the C8 Corvette. The C8 Corvette has been around for less time than the Lexus LC. I've seen more C8 Corvettes in the past week than I've seen Lexus LCs since they've come out 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. That's saying a lot. It's saying a lot. I mean, granted, the C8 Corvette starts out as a cheaper price, and it's an American car, so it's going to be more common anyway. But for a car that's only been around for less than a year, to far outsell a car that's been around for 3, almost 4 years, regardless, that says a lot, especially when they are basically in around the same price range. I mean, the CA Corvette probably starts at around $70,000. It starts at about $90,000. But after you option up a CA Corvette, you can easily get to $90,000 anyway. So, like, here we are. That's just to show you that people are really losing their taste in cars. They're losing their taste in cars. People don't want something unique. People just want what everybody else has. People want your crossover. People want your Lamborghini. People want your Jeep. People want this. People want that. Nobody wants a unique personal luxury Grand Tourer anymore. Nobody wants that. And that kind of makes me sad, because those have historically been some of the most interesting cars of all time. The Buick Riviera, a personal luxury car, like the American version of the Grand Touring car, was absolutely gorgeous. The Cadillac Eldorado was absolutely gorgeous. I mourn the loss of those vehicles. I mean, the ones that are left that are holding out, Aston Martin, all of their cars basically are considered, sports cars in a sense. But like some of like the Vanquishes and the DBs and whatnot, those are personal luxury cars. Those are Grand Touring cars. Those are cars that people want if they want to go long distances in relative comfort and reliability in a car. They get an Aston Martin DB12 or whatever, DB9, I don't know what DB they're on now, and they get a Vanquish with like the V12 engine. That's what you get if you want to do that. Aston Martin is probably the only car manufacturer that primarily makes GT cars, Grand Touring cars. They make sports cars as well, but there's a distinct difference. Ferrari might make a couple, but that's not their only market segment. Mercedes-Benz, as we've seen, makes one, but it's not its only market segment. Audi might be similar in the Audi R8, but the Audi R8 is mid-engine. It's a fundamentally different animal now. Let's see. BMW might make one. I think BMW has the 8 Series. But I don't know if the BMW 8 Series is still even being produced, and if it has, it's just recently gone back into production, and nobody knows much about it. At least I don't know much about it. But when you really think of it, nobody really has these sorts of cars anymore. It's a shame, but that's not what people want. They're going after what people want, and I have to commend Lexus. I have to commend Lexus for making something that nobody wants, but doing it so well that the people who do want it will never regret buying it. That deserves respect, man. That deserves a lot of respect. I respect Lexus. I respect the Lexus LC. Even though I know it's going to be a sales flop, it's not going to sell a lot, but Lexus put in the money, they put in the resources, they put in the time, they put in the effort to make this car, to market it, to build it, and to start selling it to the public. Let them continue to sell it, and whoever gets their paws on one of these is a very, very lucky man or woman. And I have to commend them for that. I have to commend them for making something that's so unique that only people who know cars are going to buy it. So, thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition of the GSMC Car Podcast. I'm your host, David Lucimemo. As always, if you enjoyed it, please leave us a like, a comment, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Thank you for enjoying it, and please stay tuned because there are plenty of podcasts coming in the future. Thank you so much, and have a good night, folks.
You've been listening to the GSMC Car Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed today's episode.